Rich food. Fight anemia fast. Let's take a look. What is anemia? The anemia, by definition, is the reduced ability of the blood to carry oxygen. Depending on the causes, there are several types, but the most common is the iron deficiency anemia, where there's not enough iron in your red blood cells. There's a red blood cell in your bloodstream. Now, let's take a closer look inside the red blood cell. We will find a compound called the hemoglobin, which consists of 4 protein chains, 2 beta and 2 alpha chains called globins, therefore hemoglobins. Let's take a look inside. Inside the globin, the disc-shaped chemical compound shown in the picture is the heme, which in its center has the iron molecule. Now, this iron is responsible for binding with the oxygen in the lungs and carrying it throughout the body. It is also responsible for binding with the carbon dioxide and removing it from the body toward the lungs, and from the lungs outside of our bodies. And as you can see, this is a very important metal that our body needs to function properly. There are 2 main components to raise blood iron levels: eating food rich in iron, and also proper absorption, which is very important, and we will be discussing that later on in this video. But first off, let's take a look at iron-rich food. At the top of the list, it's the liver. In 3.5 ounces, you have 18 milligrams of iron, which a recommended daily intake of 19 to 50 years old male would be 8 milligrams and female would be 18 milligrams, as you can see on the text below. Next up, pumpkin seeds, 3.5 ounces, 8.8 milligrams. Parsley, 6.2 milligrams of iron. You'll have a lot of food that is rich in iron, like the tofu cheese, also 3.5 ounces, 5.4 milligrams of iron. Now let's take a look at the oysters. The Pacific oysters have a little less, but the Eastern oysters have around 5 milligrams of iron. The lentils also have 3.3 milligrams of iron. And we have finally the red meat, which everybody knows that this is iron-rich food, but it only has like 2.7 milligrams of iron in 3.5 ounces, which is exactly the same for the spinach, which has 2.7 milligrams, but we will discuss the absorption later on these 2 foods. Next off, nuts mixed have 2.6 milligrams of iron, which is quite an amount. That's why we need to use them every day. Next off, asparagus, which is like 2.1 milligrams of iron in 3.5 ounces. Next off, we have the white beans, which surprisingly have 1.9 milligrams of iron in 3.5 ounces. And kale also has 1.5 milligrams of iron in 3.5 ounces. Next off, we have the eggs, which we consume every day. They have around 1.2 milligrams of iron in 3.5 ounces. Broccoli has 1 milligram, but in 5 ounces, so take a note of that. Dried fruits, they have around 0.8 milligrams in 3.5 ounces. So we've eaten a lot of iron-rich food, but the proper iron absorption is very important. First off, there are 2 types of iron in the foods. There's the heme iron, which is found mostly in animal products, and which has a 15 to 35% absorption rate. And then there's the non-heme iron, which is found mostly in plants, and it has a 2 to 20% absorption rate. The heme iron is absorbed more easily by the body, which is not the case with the non-heme. It is difficult to absorb the non-heme for the body. That's why vegetarians have to double the intake of food rich in iron. Now, there are some ground rules of on what you can combine with iron-rich food and what you can't combine. First off, you'll have to consume vitamin C together with the iron-rich food because vitamin C helps iron absorption. For example, when you have liver or red meat, you can make a salad with lemon, or you can have orange juice with that food. The second rule is that you do not consume dairy products together with iron-rich food because they're rich in calcium, and calcium blocks iron absorption. So you're better off avoid dairy products when you try to get your iron levels up. And the third, but not the least, is that you do not consume tea or coffee because they have these substances called the tannins, which are found in tea and coffee, and they block the iron absorption. So who's at risk for low iron? Like we have infants and young children, which need to be supplemented with either iron-rich food or supplements. We have the woman with heavy menstrual bleedings. Pregnant women need extra iron. People with gastrointestinal disorders or surgery, people with heart failure, frequent blood donors, and cancer patients. So it is very important to have proper levels of iron in your blood. That's why take this list of iron-rich food, combine it in your everyday diet, and the body has its own ways of keeping up. So be well, see you next time.